Tennessee's Wild Side, broadcast for nearly 2 decades, was originally created through a vision of the Jackson Foundation. The foundation remains a supportive partner in the mission to educate viewers about wildlife, natural resources, and opportunities for outdoor adventure.
Scientists who specialize in the study of plants and animals find plenty of places to do their research here in Tennessee. They also find time to host experts with a national understanding of conservation. One recent guest is a gatekeeper for need-to-know information about the status of wildlife.
The National Weather Service has issued an air quality alert.
I guess it's a bad day to breathe outside in that middle Tennessee.
A little pollen and pollution isn't about to stop a bunch of botanists, ecologists, and zoologists from having a field day.
Well, welcome to Cedar Glades State Natural Area.
Here's a chance for Tennessee to show off an uncommon landscape to a VIP from Arlington, Virginia. He's the CEO of the nonprofit organization Natureserve.
Natureserve is the organization that is working really to prevent extinction in the United States. Because we have partners in all of the states, I'm trying to travel to all of the states across the country and spend time in the field with the Natural Heritage Program, telling the story that they want to tell.
And what better place to visit than a Tennessee State Natural Area with rare plants?
Here today, we're in the Middle Tennessee limestone country called the Central Basin, and it is a hot spot for biodiversity, in particular for plant species. And today we're going to get to see at least 3 federal listed species, one that has now been recovered, the Tennessee coneflower, but we'll also get to see leafy prairie clover and Pines ground plum.
That's all important information for Natureserve. Its mission is to provide the scientific basis for effective conservation action.
I'm really excited to be here today. So Natureserve is a data organization, right? And in the conservation field, it's this that people care about, right? And people don't think about the data that's behind the decisions that it takes to conserve biodiversity. So Natureserve, as the hub of the wheel that is natural heritage programs in the United States, we maintain and operate the database that collects all of the information on imperiled species nationwide.
Some of that data is all mapped out.
We have 1,660 species on the endangered species list in the United States, and thousands more that could be on the endangered species list that are being analyzed and being assessed for whether or not they should be. And the work that the Tennessee Natural Heritage Program is doing in places like this is trying to keep species from going onto the endangered species list.
This particular site right here was the core of Vesta. So back in the 80s, when the Nature Conservancy was trying to protect this site, it was because of exactly where we're standing right now. We're completely surrounded by a population of the Tennessee coneflower, which was one of the first species, plant species listed on the U.S. endangered species list. We're just a little bit early to see it flowering, so it's kind of like an I Spy game today. See who spots the first one flowering. There were a couple in bud last week, so hopefully we'll find one flowering somewhere.
We work with natural heritage programs across the country to take the data that they're collecting and bring it all together nationwide so that we can compare and analyze the data from all of the states. So we know if a species in Tennessee is endangered and a species in Kentucky, but we also know the combined status from both states and from all of the states.
My staff of zoologists and botanists are the folks that are out trying to document the distribution and abundance of those species. We then enter that information into a database called Biotics in partnership with Natureserve. And that is the data that we use to identify priority areas for protection. And that's really what happened here at Vesta Cedar Glade, working with the Nature Conservancy back in the 80s. Vesta was actually then protected and became a state natural area in 1986. So this is another leafy prairie clover, but this one's white, and it's a state listed species. So this is another great partnership story. This is the Pines Ground Plum introduction site here at Vesta. And this is a partnership with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Missouri Botanical Garden in our division.
While it looks like a fruit, Pines ground plum is in the pea family and is named for the state of Tennessee botanist who discovered it, Milo Pine. He later went to work for Natureserve.
First, you have to care about Pines ground plum because it's named after a Natureserve employee, Milo Pine. So that's a really important one for us.
So this plant is only found right here in Middle Tennessee. This is one of our limestone Cedar Glade endemics. And it's only known from a handful of wild populations. It's definitely one of the rarest plants that we have in this region, if not in the eastern U.S. for sure. We're talking just a few thousands of plants basically in the wild.
These plants may seem insignificant to some people. From the perspective of science, protecting them for unknown reasons may be as important as preserving them for what we do know.
If a species in an ecosystem goes extinct, you don't know what the implications of that are because you don't necessarily know what all of the interactions are. There's other things, we don't know yet which species might have some medicine that's going to change the world. We don't know how changing the balance of the ecosystems is going to affect zoonotic diseases, so pandemics, which is incredibly relevant right now. And I think there's also a moral and aesthetic argument that we don't have the right to cause a species to go extinct.
Tennessee's Wild Side has been a presentation of the Jackson Foundation in association with Rockwater TV.